long as Renee's not shouting at me to say anything else. Okay. I would like to introduce to you Tom Lundy, who is going to do our State of the County address. Welcome, Tom.
I'm going to walk around if that's okay. Because this is going to be a little bit of audience participation. So I guess I would say starting off, probably any one of you could give a message about the state of the county because of the people that you interact with. I guess my assessment is the state of the county is pretty mixed, depending upon what sort of numbers you're looking at. So sales tax is up, which is a good thing. People are buying, people are traveling to and from the county. Unemployment is down, nowhere near where we'd like for it to be. You know, the number of jobs that are posted seems to be increasing. Building is really slow. Where we are able to attract industry to come in, it's a different kind of industry. It's more tax-based than it is employees, which obviously affects the unemployment rate. With what's happened with the economy and jobs, there are more people uninsured, underinsured. So it's really mixed. And of course, for a lot of people, it doesn't feel like it's come back. And I don't know if you've been reading this week, but there have been several articles the last week or two about the wealth in this country and the huge wealth disparity. I think the last number I saw was the top 1% of this country control 19% of the wealth. And so as that wealth disparity continues to grow, it obviously is going to have implications and repercussions for all of us. You all are in a position where you see firsthand what's going on, obviously, because you see what's happening to the fabric of families, the fabric of the community, the fabric of individuals, and their ability to stay healthy, you know, to be productive members of society. And it's always been ironic to me that when times are bad, people call for a retrenchment in terms of government. Or my guess is donations go down for the nonprofit sector. And I would submit that when things are bad, that's when the nonprofit sector is needed most, and I think when government is needed most. Because people don't have disposable income. They may be using libraries more. They may be using parks more. There may be more break-ins because, you know, people are looking for money for, you know, to put food on the table, or in some cases to, you know, to buy drugs, whatever the case may be. But I think in society, when things are not going well, there's an expectation that government is going to retrench, and I don't know how we break that cycle to get people to understand that that's really when you ought to be investing in people and infrastructure and opportunities for people. But I would say to you that you know, the county government, we employ 1,100 people. We spend about $225 million in this county. Plus, we own Catawba Valley Medical Center, so we're in people's lives in a lot of different ways. And I would hope, and I think on balance, people appreciate what we're doing, but that's not always the case. But I'm really proud of what Catawba County employees do, and I'm very thankful and appreciative of what each of you do as far as dealing with the fabric of the community. When Renee called and asked about speaking about the state of the county, she reminded us that when I did this, I don't know, these many years ago,
2007 or 8?
2007 or 8, that instead of just talking, I had sort of had audience participation. So I'm going to take the same approach, if that's okay with you all. And maybe somebody could help me handing these out. Can a couple of people help me get these out onto the tables? Okay. Anybody else willing to help? Or I'll do the rest. Good. Should have had these distributed. I apologize for that. Sarah already has the answers to half of them done. So what I've done, I've put some questions on here with the answers jumbled up.
Thank you.
in several categories. And I'm willing to talk about other categories that aren't on here, or questions that you have that I can answer. But I thought this might be a fun way for us all to be involved and see sort of where things are in the county. In some cases, the numbers are good. In some cases, the numbers are not so good. Does everybody have one? Okay. Well, let's start with the first category, population demographics. So, the county's population right now is what?
C.
C, very good. Boy, this could go quicker than I thought. Okay, and then population ranks us where out of the 100 counties in North Carolina?
10.
Somebody's narrowed it to A or B. How many think A? A few. How many think B? The answer is B. Only about 10% of you voted. That's
I don't know the answer.
You know, in other countries like Australia, you have to vote, and you get penalized.
That's right.
Okay, last census, African American population versus Hispanic population in Catawba County.
Yeah.
That's a hard one, isn't it? But very interesting stat, right? For the first time, and of course we've heard about that, you know, nationally, that the Latino population is going to continue to grow. Let's see, our population growth over a 20-year period from 1990 to 2010. Somebody say E before you're done. The answer is A, 24%. Pretty healthy population growth. Now, you know what happened to that curve, right? First 10 years, rapid population growth. What's happened the last 10 years? Not so much. So look at the next one, the lost jobs in the Hickory Metro. And Hickory Metro includes 4 counties. So that's, some of these, we try to make most of these stats just about Catawba County, but this is a 4 county. How many jobs were lost in Hickory Metro in the 10-year period? 47,000 jobs. Again, not all here in Catawba County, but you know, the Hickory area is the engine, the economic engine for the 4-county area. And then the percent change in population of the 20 to 44 age group. E. So a 10% decrease.
10% decrease.
In the 20 to 44 age group. Why is that significant or a concern?
Work
jobs. What else? Young families.
That's your seeds of revenue. Yeah.
What?
That's your seeds of revenue.
Yes, right. It's the entrepreneurs, they're going to start businesses to employ people. I mean, yeah, that's a group that we need to get back. And then our unemployment rate, the last number. By the process of elimination, the answer is? Yes, 10.3%. So, you know, it kept coming down, and it went up statewide, and then it's come down just a little bit. Okay, economic conditions. How does some of that translate? Percentage of female-owned businesses in the county. What? G? What'd you say? You don't need to talk louder. The answer is D, 26%. That's an impressive number, right?
Yeah.
Let's look at number 2. Dawn and I were in a reading group discussion in Lundy. We talked about this. The average pay for women, again, Hickory MSA, 4-county region compared to men. Women get paid what percentage compared to men? 77. So more, you know, a very healthy number of businesses owned by women, but in the 4-county area, based on the census, about 77% of what men get paid. And the number of women who are head of household in the county? 19%. So obviously you see the issue here, right? More women head of household trying to, you know, do businesses, getting paid 3/4 of what men get paid. An issue that needs to get corrected. So the business investment in millions and the jobs that have been announced in 2012. This is an easy one. Yes. So $291 million in investment, 428 jobs in that year. But again, when you're looking at thousands of jobs that have been lost, you know, getting jobs back in 400, 500 chunks, it's going to take a while for that to come back. The average household income for the county
C.
is B.
Household.
Yeah. Household, yes. The poverty rate, does this say for children?
Yes.
Yes, okay. The poverty rate for, the percentage poverty rate for children in Catawba County is 17%. For adults, it's 12.5%. Both of those numbers are less than the state and less than the national average, but I would submit that they're way too high. And if you look at what happened in the 10-year period, 2010 to 2011, both went up, but the rate of children in poverty went up at a much steeper climb than the rate of adults in poverty. And so one of the programs we have in terms of helping students with food on weekends is the backpack program. So how many backpacks were distributed last year to help? Yes, again, by process of elimination, 39,919. Okay, education. So what percent of the county's local money? Our two major sources of local money are the property tax that everybody pays on their home, their land, their business, their cars, their jet skis, their whatever, and sales tax. That not just, you know, property tax is only paid by people who own property in Catawba County. You don't have to live here. If you own land, you own a business, you're going to still pay property tax in Catawba County. Sales tax is paid by people who live in the county and shop, those who live in other counties and come in to shop, or people who are just passing through. So if you take our property tax and our sales tax, what percentage of that do you think goes to education? D. 1.8%? The answer is C, 48. So almost 48 cents of every local dollar is given to the 3 school systems and CVCC. Extra question for you. How many of you live in a city? Okay, do any of your city taxes go for public schools or community college? It's a yes or no answer.
No. Yes.
No. Cities don't contribute anything. I mean, cities might, for example, police department might give a resource officer or a crossing guard, but there's no direct allocation by cities to public schools or CVCC. So sometimes people say, well, I live in the city, what do I get for my county taxes? Well, I'm not paying county taxes. Well, right off the bat, half of what you're giving goes to education and the community college in the county. And then other things are funded by just county dollars, like the 911 center. You dial 911, that's a county function. Social services, public health programs, emergency medical services, and those are all county services that are funded by county tax dollars. All right, so 48 cents of every local dollar goes. Average graduation rate among our 3 school systems, 87. Ranges from a low of about 82 in the Hickory system to a high of 93 in the Catawba County system. The good news is all 3 systems are increasing their graduation rate, trying to keep the kids in school longer. And I assume everybody understands the value of having kids in school, having a degree in terms of being contributing members to society, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and then lottery tickets. This is always fascinating. So the amount of ticket sales in millions in 2012, not just Catawba County residents, but anybody who bought a ticket in Catawba County, you're a tourist or whatever. D. What?
D.
It's D. $27 million was purchased in Catawba County in 2012. So that lottery money, you buy those tickets or whatever it is you buy, money goes to the state. Off the top, the state takes money for what? They take the prize winnings, They take all their marketing, they take the money to their staff. They then give money to state programs, state education programs that the state used to fund separately, but now they're using lottery money to supplant. And then how much did we get back of that $27 million for our 3 school systems in that same year? 1.8 million. I mean, we might as well have the lottery ourselves.
Around 1%.
We have 13 times the money being spent here in the county. $27 million in lottery sales, 1.8 million came back to us as our share. Not a very good investment if you were asked to invest in those. Okay, other issues, right, Cindy?
Yes, that is not a good idea at all.
Okay, just some other random issues. Tons of waste buried each day. One of the things the county provides that cities don't is the landfill eco-complex. So when our trash magically disappears from our curbs or whatever, it's the county who's receiving and taking care of that environmentally. So how many tons of waste on average do you think we bury every day at the landfill? The answer is A, 650 tons. So how much, here's an elementary question, how much does an elephant weigh on average? 2 tons or 2,000 pounds?
1 ton.
1 ton. All right, so I always do this with elementary kids. So 650 tons, they can. I said, think about burying 650 elephants every single day in this county. The amount of waste that gets generated. Pretty interesting graphic. So you have to bury, some things, but what we're trying to do is to bury less. And so we've actually had a decrease in the amount that we've been burying. So from 2009 to 13, what percentage decrease would you guess we've had in the amount of waste? 2? 23%. Now, I think that's due to 2 things. One is the economy. When you've got plants not running 3 shifts, only running 1 shift, or plants that are closed, they're not producing as much, for example, or businesses that are shuttered or cut back. But the other, I think, is because industry is doing a better job in terms of recycling, as are county taxpayers. So Catawba County is ranked in the state for recycling. It's B, 2. We were actually number 1 last year, but we've always been 1, 2, or 3, which I think is a real testament to the industry and the individuals in the county, that people are willing to recycle. And we're going to be able to recycle more and more things effective January 1st. There'll be publicity coming out, but we'll be able to get rid of more and more at the curb for recycling. Obviously, the more we can divert, the less we have to bury, the less our cost, and because it's a very costly process to have to bury and cover and keep up with waste. By state law, if we ever have a problem with waste, and I use this example with school kids as well, I always ask them, and I'm always hesitant to do this, I said, how many of your parents or your fathers change the oil in their vehicles? And the hands go up. And I say, okay, when they get the old oil out, what do they do with it? Oh, they dump it in the drain, they throw it in the creek, they put it in the garbage can. I said, okay, so it's in the garbage can. And so your garbage gets picked up and it disappears, right? Where's it go? It goes to the landfill. So it's dumped 650 tons. By law, what you have to do is you have to crush all of that because you don't want air in there. You want to compact the space. When those huge pieces, those huge compactors go across that can of oil, what's going to happen to it? It's going to burst. And where's the oil going to go? It's going to find the quickest source of water. And that's going to be the stream. It's going to feed somebody's groundwater. So what the state, in essence, did years ago is say, when you do a landfill, you've got to have a huge plastic liner. You have to collect that. It's like a sewer plant. You have to pipe that out. You have to treat it. My point is it's very expensive anymore. It's not just a hole in the ground that you just throw stuff in. Because if we ever have an off-site leak, we're responsible for managing that leak for the next 20 years, whether it leaks again or not. Even if we fix it, we have the clock starts going at 20 years. So the less we can bury, the better off we all are. So I didn't mean to get off on all of that. Number of homes powered by methane at the eco-complex. So when you bury trash, you create methane. And by law, you've got two choices. You can vent and burn that gas, or you can collect it, which is what we do, and produce power and sell it to Duke Energy. So we've been collecting the methane for a number of years. We have a contract with Duke Energy. So how many homes do we power every year with the methane that we convert into power? 1,400 homes a year. Right. And, you know, there are ways to speed that up. If you add more liquid to the waste, you're going to increase the amount of methane. So as garbage that we bury goes back up, that'll probably increase. Okay, randomly going from 4 to 5. Our website, unique visitors this year? 3,000. Number of calls that come into the 911 center by process of elimination. 86,000 calls coming in. That's anytime you call police, fire, rescue, EMS, highway patrol, animal control, those calls all go to the county EMS, the county 911 center. And it's remember about 3 weeks ago, the man that came in, the lady broke into the lady's, I guess, former girlfriend's house, and it was in Maiden, and stabbed her, and then took her on, and she escaped from the car and got hit by a truck and killed. It was really interesting because I was talking to the operator who was on shift at that time, and those operators never gave up on that guy. First of all, they had to find out who it was because he was using her phone. So they didn't have his cell phone, and he wasn't at his home, so they didn't know who he was. So that was the first. While this was all going on, they're trying to figure out who is this person. And then once they got reports of the person, of her actually getting out of the car and the body being hit, got those reports in and the dispatch people, they had gotten his number and they actually engaged him in a phone conversation to try to get him to turn himself in. And they would talk, he would hang up. They'd call him back, they'd talk. So 2 operators really talked him in at one point to agreeing to give himself up and arranging where he would meet law enforcement to come arrest him. So when you think about 911, it's just, all they do is say, 911, can I help you? I need an ambulance, hit a button, they're done. But in a lot of cases, they're not done. I heard a story this week about an operator talking to Longview policemen through the delivery of a baby. So there's just a lot that they do. When you think about 86,000 calls and you're trying to deal with the situation at hand, plus handle others, pretty amazing people. Okay, and then finances. So this is a little confusing, but if you took the top 10 taxpayers in the county, businesses, what percent of our overall taxes do you think they pay?
87.
87, I hear an 87%. Anybody else? The answer is 10, which is a good thing. You don't want your top taxpayers to pay 50-60% of your tax base, because if they leave, you lose 50-60% of your tax base. So you really want that number in and around the 10 or 15% range. Think what happened. What was the group in Cabarrus that folded years ago? Wasn't it? What?
I think it starts with a C. Cannon.
No, it wasn't Cannon. But anyway, you remember Teletext? Maybe? I don't know. Anyway, what you don't want is your major employer, major taxpayer to go belly up, and then you've got a huge problem on your hands. So this is actually a good number. That is a small amount. So if all of them went belly up, we would still have 90% of the income coming in to support things like law enforcement and 911 and schools and so forth. You'd have less, but you wouldn't have dramatically less. I mentioned the sales tax was up. So if you look at the 100 counties in the state and you look at the retail sales that are done here in Catawba County, where would our rank be? This is from high to low. So if the highest is number 1, where do you think we rank? C, we're 13. So that's a good thing. I really think people prefer to pay a sales tax than pay a property tax. And I wish we had the authority to increase sales tax and reduce property tax, but by state law, it's interesting, by state law, cities and counties can have a tax rate of $1.50 for every $100 of value. Anybody know what the county's tax rate is? I wouldn't expect you to, but it's 53 cents. So in essence, we're charging a third of what the constitutional limit is that we can charge on all of our property. But it's still a pretty onerous tax, isn't it? I mean, if you're retired and you're sitting on valuable property but you don't have income, you still got to pay the tax, right? Or if you're down on your luck in between jobs, that property tax bill still has to get paid. On the other hand, sales tax bill, you don't want to buy, Donald doesn't want to buy that tie this week because he doesn't have the money. He puts it off for a month or two. You know, he's more in control of what he pays, and you pay in smaller amounts. Do any of you really focus on the sales tax you're going to pay on an item? I mean, I don't. It's more the price of the item. So I think a better way to get revenue in the future might be sales rather than property tax. But anyway. But then if you look at our rank about taxes that are paid, property and sales, if you take what's paid in by the people of Catawba County and divide it by every man, woman, and child, and then compare us to the other 100 counties, what would our rank be? 87. So we're 13 from the bottom. Okay, does that make sense? So if you look at other counties and what their citizens pay on a per person basis in property and sales tax, there are 86 counties where those citizens pay more on a per person basis. Now some may say, oh, well, that means you ought to be increasing the property tax and people pay more. But again, I think property tax can be onerous. And then by process of elimination, how many months of operating expenses do we keep in the county's savings account or coffers? 2 months. And the idea on that is just that, well, sales tax, we get sales tax 90 days after it's paid. So you go to the grocery store, department store, you pay your sales tax, it's collected, sent to the state holds it, we get it back about 90 days later. But we got expenses going on those 90 days. Well, in a lot of cases in social services and public health, it's on a reimbursement basis. We have to spend the money before the state will reimburse us our allocation. Or people pay their property taxes when? At what point in the year?
January.
December, January is a heavy time, but our year starts July 1st. So July 1st, schools are expecting a check. Community college is expecting a check. You're expecting to have 911 operators answer that call. And so you have some savings which you use in terms of cash flow. Okay, well, I hope that was interesting. That's just a way to sort of talk about some of the numbers, the good and the bad. Are there questions you want to talk about, or questions that you have? Dawn? Yeah. Dawn and Renee.
Okay. Now that the property tax you pay for our car is being paid to DMV instead of to the county, does that impact the county in any significant way? Does that change?
Yeah, I think the jury's out. I think that's going to start September, well, I guess it has started September 1st. And just so everybody knows, what's happened up till now is that when you go to get your tag renewed, you have to have had what done to your car? They have to have it inspected. And a lot of people are going to get their tag renewed and what? Didn't get my car inspected. Now the state has put another requirement on. When you go get your tag renewed, you have to have your car inspected and you have to pay your taxes. And so you're going to pay your county property tax rate for vehicles at the state DMV office. Okay? To me, that's the first point of confusion. And again, the state's going to collect that money. My guess is they're going to hold it to make some money off of that money. So we're going to get it back later than we would have, as opposed to you're going down to the tax office, paying it, we've got your money, we're investing it, the state will have it for a period of time. What they're saying is it should increase the collection rate for everybody. Vehicles are hard. We run about an 83% collection rate on vehicles. You know, because people move county to county, there's not a good tracking system. So it's supposed to cut that down, and we're supposed to end up with more money. I think the jury's out. My other major concern is that once a local revenue gets in the state budget, what's going to happen is it's going to be in a revenue account, but it's also going to be an expenditure account that's going to say something like reimbursement to cities and counties for whatever. And at some point, there'll be a general assembly of members who weren't here when that was created, and we'll look at that trying to balance the state budget and say, why should we give money to cities and counties? They can raise their property tax rate. So I don't know that we'll have that income in the long term. Those are the downsides that I see. The upside is we get a better collection, we get more money. But we'll see. Renee?
I was going to go back to other finances, the top 10 taxpayers.
Yeah.
Back before all the businesses closed and went overseas, would you think that that was still the same rate? The top 10 taxpayers still paid basically the same rate we're paying now?
Yeah, we've actually done very well over the years. So I would guess if you go back 10, 15 years, it would be about in that range.
That's good.
What's changed are the taxpayers. So for years and years, Duke Power, Duke Energy, Marshall Steam Plant was the #1 taxpayer in the county. Would you guess that's still true? #1 taxpayer now is Apple. And you know, they're very secretive about things. I've only been on site one time, but when I was down about 4 months ago, you know, they're doing the cloud service for the whole eastern part of the United States, for Europe, and for parts of Asia. So somebody in Germany buys an MP3, that's coming back here. I mean, that's residual here in Catawba County. And the guy who's in charge of the facility here has been put in charge of Apple's worldwide data centers. So Apple Worldwide is out of Cupertino, California, but Apple Data Centers Worldwide is based in Catawba County, North Carolina. How fast they expand, you know, anybody's guess. So the mix of the taxpayers has changed over. You still have some that are in there. They've jumped. There are some that are no longer there. You know, Alcatel used to be Claremont, you know, has dropped out. So you'll have them drop in and out. But historically, I think we try to keep it about that 10% range, just for that very reason.
Who are the biggest employers in the county?
The biggest employer in the county is the Catawba County School System. Of course, they're not a taxpayer. Have you had enough? Any other questions? Okay. Well, I hope it's been interesting. There's a lot to think about when you think about the state of the county. And of course, what's sort of important is everybody's individual state, as well as the collective state. But again, I want to say I'm just really proud of what the county employees do. And I'm very, very appreciative of what you and all of your agencies do to try to address the needs in the county. And thanks for the chance to come.
Thank you so much for giving us